Everyone, this is Mike Brennan here at the National Hurricane Center. It's just after 10 a.m. Central Daylight Time on Thursday, September 26, coming on with the latest on a very dangerous Hurricane Helene, which is strengthening as it moves northeastward across the eastern Gulf of Mexico, taking aim on the Florida Big Bend region for a landfall that's expected this evening. But Helene is an expansive storm with hazards that are already extending out hundreds of miles away from the center, and those hazards are going to play out in multiple life-threatening forms over the next 12 to 24 hours, and we'll step through those. But here are the basics on Helene right now, located about 255 miles to the southwest of Tampa, 290 miles south of Apalachicola, Florida. Forward speed is picking up, now moving to the north-northeast around 14 miles per hour. That speed is going to continue to increase to over 20 miles per hour by the time Helene makes landfall later this evening. The maximum sustained winds are now up to about 105 miles per hour. We've seen data from both the NOAA and Air Force Hurricane Hunter aircraft that shows Helene is strengthening, getting better organized, forming an eye wall, and we're expecting steady to rapid intensification to continue before Helene makes landfall later tonight as a Category 3 or possibly even Category 4 hurricane. But the impacts are what's going to be most important. If we look at the radar, we can already see substantial rain bands occurring across portions of Florida. There's tornado warnings in effect in some places in east coast of Florida, Florida Panhandle, and also substantial rainfall already occurring across Georgia, South Carolina, central and western North Carolina, portions of eastern Tennessee. So we're going to see that rainfall hazard continue to increase as we go through the night and into Friday. Let's start first with the storm surge forecast. We have a storm surge warning in effect for much of the west coast of Florida from Mexico Beach all the way down to Flamingo. The area we're most concerned about is here between Carabel and Sewanee River, where we're expecting to see a storm surge inundation of 15 to 20 feet above ground level. So again, I'm 6 feet tall. That's water 3.5, 4 times as high as I am. And that's up to the top of a second-story building. Again, a really unsurvivable scenario is going to play out here in this portion of the Florida coastline. In addition to that storm surge, you're going to have destructive wave action on top of that can destroy houses, move cars, and that water level is going to rise very quickly with the approach of Helene tonight and could cut off escape routes if you have not evacuated and you're in the storms anywhere in the storm surge warning area. Please do so. Please follow that advice if you've been given advice to evacuate by your local officials. Even farther south along the Florida west coast, very sensitive to storm surge, expecting 5 to 8 feet of inundation. From Chassahowitzka down to Anclote River, including the Tampa Bay area, that water levels are going to rise as we go through the evening and overnight hours tonight, 10 to 15 feet from Chassahowitzka to Sewanee River, and then even over to Apalachicola and Indian Pass, between 6 and 10 feet of inundation in that region. So again, widespread storm surge inundation going to create very dangerous conditions. Moving on to the wind and the wind forecast, and the wind impacts are substantial. The tropical storm force winds extend out almost 350 miles away from the center of Helene, affecting portions of the Florida Keys, southwest Florida, southeast Florida, and those winds are rapidly moving northward. And again, with Helene expected to intensify and be moving at over 20 to 25 miles per hour as it makes landfall, those hurricane force winds are going to penetrate well inland. Everywhere you see in red here, the Big Bend region of Florida, the northern portions of the Florida Panhandle up to southwest and even west central Georgia are under hurricane warnings. Everybody in that region needs to be prepared for hurricane force winds, the potential for long duration, widespread power outages, structural damage, trees falling on homes, out on cars or people if you're outside. So, and the potential for catastrophic wind damage near where the core of Helene makes landfall along the Florida Big Bend coast. So, and beyond that, you see that the entire state of South Carolina, the remainder of Georgia, much of Florida, portions of western North Carolina and eastern Alabama are under tropical storm warnings with the potential expectation of seeing sustained tropical storm force winds, substantial wind gusts, maybe even hurricane force wind gusts in the higher topography of the southern Appalachians across portions of western South Carolina, southwestern North Carolina as we go through the nighttime and the early morning hours. Again, forecasting Helene to be a strong tropical storm as it affects the Atlanta metro area overnight tonight and early Friday. Again, expecting widespread significant impacts, could see widespread power outages. And a reminder that most wind fatalities in tropical storms and hurricanes do occur due to tree-related incidents. Let's move on now to the rainfall threat. This is the rainfall forecast associated with Helene. Even though it's going to be moving very quickly, we're expecting, really highlighting 2 areas in particular that we're very concerned about for the potential for catastrophic flash flooding. The area down here near the Florida Panhandle and into southwest Georgia, where the core of Helene is expected to move inland overnight tonight. And then up here into the southern Appalachians from the northeast Atlanta metro area through the northeast Georgia mountains, upstate South Carolina, western North Carolina, as the tropical moisture associated with Helene